I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This meeting of the East Troy School District Board of Education and all other meetings of the board are open to the public in compliance with state statute. Notice of the meeting has been sent to the media and/or has been publicly posted in an attempt to make the citizens of the district aware of the time, place, and agenda of this meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as posted.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Would anyone like to speak during public participation?
Then you get to read the statement.
I think I can speak over the crowd.
It's for the televised.
Okay. Yes, my name is Dave Dessart. And when I got word that you guys were meeting about the topics of the agenda, I thought I should probably come and share my opinions. So my family we lived in East Troy for 20 years. I've had 3 boys go through the entire school district. Well, not the entire school district, 2 of them, from elementary all the way through high school, up until recently, when we felt we were forced to leave the school district. So I've had my youngest son, who just completed his freshman year, had to make a very, very difficult personal decision as to whether he's going to leave everything and everyone he's known to follow his dream, or stay and forget about his dreams and stay with his friends. It had a lot to do with the sports here in East Troy. When I think about the difficult decisions he's had to make, I mean, that was quite, for a 15-year-old boy to have to decide that. That was heart-wrenching to watch as a father, trying to support him and his dreams. But I would do whatever I have to. So we left the school district. It was sad. I have lots of friends, lots of family here, 20 years of meeting with teachers. And the sad part is, after all the hours, countless hours of volunteering, coaching football, baseball, wrestling, tournaments, concession stands, kids competing in 2 and 3 sports throughout all of high school. This latest one, they're all great kids. Caden is a tremendous, kind, caring, good role model. I got 0 text messages, phone calls, emails, 0. Nobody asked me, why? Why are you leaving the district? What could we do to keep you? What could we do as a district to change your mind? What do we need? Nothing. Nope, just hey, don't forget to turn in your Chromebook and your charger. That was it. Not a school board member, nobody. Principal, AD, assistant principal, except the coach. Coach called me. He's like, I understand. I don't hold it against you. JV basketball coach called. I understand. I don't hold it against you. But nobody cared. School kids leaving the school district are on a rise, and you might care, because I listened to the last school board meeting, right? Live on YouTube. And what I heard about was, we need to increase our enrollment so we can get more money for the budget. So let's put a subcommittee together to put together a marketing strategy on how we can market our skilled trades program as an example. Great. I don't hold any grudges against skilled trades. One of my boys is in the skilled trades career. I love it. I support. I always said, go to college, get a skilled trade, or go to the military. One of those 3, right? But honestly, no one's going to come to East Troy for skilled trades. They're just not. They're just not. They're not going to come to get a skilled trade degree. All the other school communities offer the same thing we do. It's a reality. Parents want academics. Kids want sports. And when a parent can take their kid to a different school district and get the same or better academic experience and athletic experience, a better one, they're going to do it. And you know, by watching the numbers of kids open enrolling out of the East Troy School District, it's happening. And it's not because we're not promoting our skilled trades. It's not because we're not promoting the nursing program. It's not because we're not promoting these things. When on a Friday night, when you've got hundreds of people coming in to watch a football game, our own community members, parents, some teachers, some staff members, the visiting teachers, the visiting families, the visiting coaches, hundreds of people walk through that gate on a Friday night to watch a football game, and they're treated to a football field that hasn't been reseeded, aerated, in years, barely watered during the summer. Do you know what it's like to play on a football field with weeds? It's very slippery, and it's dangerous. They have a scoreboard that doesn't work half the time. You got to touch two wires together to get it to work and cross your fingers that it comes back on so you can finish the game. And then you take youth Titans program, which I've coached for years. We come here on a Saturday night, same thing, parents, families, visiting teachers, or visiting coaches, they come and they have to play on the same thing. We have a scoreboard that doesn't work. We have a field full of weeds. The lights on the south end zone, they've been burnt out for 2 years. This will be the third year. So the south end zone is almost unplayable. You throw a pass if it's anywhere high, you can barely see it. Nobody cares. And it shows when people come into our facilities and they're like, clearly the school doesn't care about their sports programs. The soccer field is in the same disarray as the football field. Clover everywhere. It's not as bad as a football field. It will be if it keeps getting neglected like the football field is. We had to repair our own goalpost a couple years ago because we couldn't get the school to do it. And I say we, I mean community members. Jane's in a truck and straightened her out. We had to put up our own whiteboard. Got it from the school, but we put it up ourselves. 9 kids went out for track this year. 9 boys. 9 boys. That's ridiculously low. You can't get anybody to care about the sports in here. All we focus on is trying to pull kids from the surrounding communities because of our programs when they can get the same academic experience or better somewhere else. You want loyalty. Sports brings loyalty. Sports brings pride. That's the reality of the fact. You want kids to market? You want a marketing program? You want a marketing subcommittee to talk about it? The number one marketing tool you have at your disposal are students and parents that currently go here. So when we open enrolled back to East Troy and then had to make a decision not to. When nobody cared enough to ask me, why, Dave? Why are you leaving? Tells me you don't care. Tells me you don't care. So when you replace a perfectly good football field or basketball court that didn't need to be replaced or refinished this year and not replace light bulbs or a broken scoreboard for the soccer field and the football field, it tells me you don't care. That floor did not need to be replaced or refinished. You could have spent that money replacing light bulbs and the scoreboard. We had somebody willing to donate money and a strategy to replace the football field, football scoreboard. You know what the school said? No, we got it. That was 4 years ago. 4 years ago. We've had people that have wanted to market their businesses here on our fence to raise money for the sports programs. You know what we're told? Nope, can't do it. We'll take care of it. Yet we have dilapidated sports facilities. And the unfortunate thing is you're pointing the finger at the coach. Like it's his problem. It's not his problem. This is a district problem. How can you possibly get kids to care about sports when they walk into a facility that's dilapidated? It's hard as cement to play on that football field. The soccer field is full of clover. The football field's full of clover. The scoreboards don't work. And I know you're going to say, well, we don't have the money. You have the money to replace a perfectly good floor in the basketball court. We have a $60,000 scoreboard that sits in there. Doesn't do anything, doesn't bring any money. A couple dollars here and there. When we have scoreboards outside that don't work. I just thought I needed to come here and tell you that I was very sad. Our family was sad that we had to leave the community that we've known for 20 years, but we were willing to do it to allow our son to follow his dream. He could have done it here, but not this year. It was a sad decision. And I understand that I don't know what's going to happen with the East Troy School District in the coming years. But unless you start asking parents who are leaving this community as to why they're leaving, you're going to keep beating your head up against the wall and putting together marketing subcommittees that are going to promote skilled trades programs that nobody wants. Parents aren't going to force their kids to come to East Troy for skilled trades when they can get it somewhere else. But they will leave their school district to come to a better sports program that offers the same or better academics. I'm no longer in this community, but it doesn't mean I don't care. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. I have lots of family and friends here that I've made over the 20 years, and I just felt I needed to come. And maybe you'll take my words to heart. I don't know. But I sure hope so, because I still care about the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, our first discussion action item related to East Troy varsity football season for the 23-24 school year.
So in front of you, you have a memo from Aaron Judd, our Assistant Principal Athletic Director, dated the 18th of July, 2023. I will read that to you. The East Troy Athletic Program currently has 32 players signed up to play football for the upcoming 23-24 school season. Of those 32 players, 22 of them are freshmen. The breakdown of the remaining 10 players per sophomores, juniors, and seniors are 4, 4, and 2. At this point in time, the concern is with the low player numbers, especially the lack of juniors and seniors, and the safety of the younger players if we were to play a varsity season. East Troy prides itself on the ability to provide students with the experience to play athletics if they wish to do so. Several parents have come forward stating that if we are to only have a varsity season, their children would not be playing football. Again, their concern is safety. The football coaching staff has expressed their concern on this matter as well. In addition, we must make a decision so that any player/family has the opportunity to make necessary schooling/athletic decisions for this coming school year and beyond, along with our conference schools being informed in a timely manner. I've sent out a letter, he linked it, to all East Troy High School students inquiring about participation in football, which he sent on the 11th of July, 2023, asking if there would be anybody more interested in the possibility of considering. However, no other sport provides us with as large of a safety concern, considering football is a contact sport. Through the use of this letter, we had one additional student reach out expressing interest to play football. I have also compiled our participation numbers in the sport over the last 8 seasons, which can be seen on the chart on the following page, which is on the back, I believe, of the memo. Finally, no matter the decision, we must begin conversations and decisions related to an action plan as it pertains to our football program and possibly other programs. Thank you, Aaron Judd. So both of those things are there. With that, Ms. Keene and Mr. Collins and Aaron Judd have had discussions, and they were talking. I know that Steve and Stacy had a long conversation recently in regards to what to do and where to go next from a standpoint of a recommendation. With that, you'll see the memo that was directed to me from Ms. Keene in regards to the 2023 varsity football season. I'll read it right now. Again, this is a recommendation. Through ongoing discussions with Aaron Judd, Athletic Director, Steve Collins, varsity football coach, and myself, Ms. Keene, meaning, we have analyzed the number of athletes that have indicated they will play football this season and examined various scenarios that the lower participation numbers could result in. With the low number of upperclassmen, 4 to 5 juniors/seniors, that have signed up to participate in football, the recommendation is to only do a JV football season. We have conferred with Stephanie Hauser, Executive Director of the WIA, and she has indicated that there are no ongoing sanctions for not holding a varsity season. WIA also informed us that we are not able to play select varsity football games and forfeit others to maintain a season. Our options are to either play an entire season with no forfeits or to play a JV season. Although this is a very difficult decision and one that we do not take lightly, We feel it is in the best interest of the program to provide competitive opportunities for our players and teams that will ensure the development of athletic skills. In regards to activities that could be impacted, including homecoming, our plan is to continue with the traditions associated with homecoming and potentially look to move a different athletic competition to Friday night. Lastly, it is the intention of East Troy High School to have a varsity football season for the 2024 season and moving forward. While we feel that opting to not hold a season this year is in the best interest of the players and program, we certainly recognize that it is not ideal and it is not important to support a varsity football program. We will work with Coach Collins to develop an action plan that supports increasing, maintaining student participation in football and examine other aspects of the football program to find areas for improvement that will support increased student participation. Respectfully submitted, Ms. Stacy Keene, East Troy High School Principal.
Chris, can I just correct one? You had said, you had added the word not.
I'm sorry, did I misspeak on something? I apologize.
You said we certainly recognize that it's not ideal and it is not important to support.
Oh, and it is important to support. I'm sorry about that.
The audience.
Sorry, yeah, I don't want people to get that wrong, so, sorry. Out of my eye, I saw somebody walking, so my thing, so, let me read that again then. While we feel that opting to not hold a season this year is in the best interest of the players and program, we certainly recognize that it is not ideal, and it is important to support a varsity football program. Thank you, Steve. So at this time, I think tonight, obviously, it's a very difficult discussion item for the board, but as I know the coaches feel, I know the administration feels, and that is families definitely need to know one way or the other in regards to it. And I want to state for the record my apologies to the families from a standpoint of just that it's July 20th. I know that these are very difficult decisions for families, especially wherever the board elects to go tonight. It'll be a difficult decision for families either way. Elect to have a varsity season, and families have reached out saying they won't be playing football this year, for at least the younger classmen probably. Elect to not have a football season, and you might have seniors and juniors probably having discussions with their families about whether or not how vital and importance is that specific athletic endeavor and opportunity, and it may result in, as Dave just shared tonight, right? Having a child have to make a very difficult decision about whether or not to go. Yes.
Can you come up, Stacy? Thank you.
A couple things about the points that Dr. Hibner said. I think it's an important point to know that when Steve and Aaron Judd have been having ongoing conversations for a long time about the projected numbers, they knew the numbers were going to be tight, but we did not have firm numbers until maybe last week, and we met yesterday, and Steve had a better feeling as of yesterday where the exact numbers would be. So it is my understanding that they were projecting numbers to be mid-40s. Is that fair to say? Mid to upper 40s for this season, and even the coaching staff was surprised when the numbers came in as they were. We did lose a couple of students, which impacted the overall numbers, and with the projected numbers of 26, give or take, these are all approximations, but that really made the decision to go to the JV only season more solidified once we had those finalized numbers as of yesterday. So I think that timeline is important. This isn't something that we saw coming and didn't intend to wait till now to discuss. It was something that we thought we were going to be able to remedy and hold a season, and it just didn't turn out that way. The second part is when I talked to WIA, I asked about transfer. I'm the messenger here. I would like to make that very clear. I have no say in this. For those of you that are familiar with WIA, they have a 365 transfer rule. So if you transfer after your freshman year, you have to sit out for a 365 calendar continuation. And I asked if Because we are not hosting a varsity season as a school district, if that would change for athletes that would potentially want to play on a varsity team someplace else, and they said it would not, that the 365 rule would still be in place. Again, that is not the school district's decision. That is the direction from WIA. I want to make that clear.
I appreciate you sharing that, Stace, because that's, I want families to understand when they're making those decisions that there's not much then we can do on that end, even though.
And I will say with that, I'm not trying to throw WIA under the bus, that's just a factual statement. I will say that Steph Hauser has been very helpful through this process. She's been very responsive and has answered our questions. We've had a lot of questions as we've went through this process. So I appreciate WIA's assistance with helping us through this process.
I agree with that, but I will go on record saying I think it's unfortunate. Not that I want to ever lose a child or children in East Troy, but I'll go on the record saying I mean, I would hope that we still can maintain all the kids in our district due to other things that are offered, but I think that's for a junior or senior, if varsity football is their pride and joy, I find that disturbing that people would not allow them to have the flexibility to make that decision rather than being told by somebody. So I'm not putting WIA down either. I totally understand that. I respect that. It's a rule, right? It's a specific rule and guideline. But unfortunately, if we elect not to have a varsity football season tonight, if the board does, that those individuals really don't have a choice in the matter.
I have a couple questions. Are there rules around what grade is allowed to play JV football? I don't know how that actually.
That's a good question. So the projection is 1 senior for next year, potentially 2. And so WIAA has no rule
Okay.
that states that seniors cannot play on JV. That would much more be of a conference rule. It is my understanding that our conference does say that seniors are not to play on, or senior, I should say it, seniors are expected to play on varsity. However, we would petition our conference and Ray Vance, our athletic conference commissioner, that we would allow our seniors that are playing football to play on JV because we don't offer a varsity program.
And is there any impact on the offerings, the varsity offerings for girls? That was one of my questions to Aaron last time.
Like a Title IX issue. I asked Steph Hauser that. She said that WIA does not oversee that would be something that the board would want to check with the legal counsel on. But it's her understanding that a 1-year hiatus from a varsity position potentially would not impact your Title IX. Because we're still offering football, we just don't have varsity. It's not like we're not offering football at all.
Yeah, and it's a semantics thing, right? Like I could argue we offered varsity football and we didn't have
Yeah.
enough students to field a team, but it wasn't that we didn't, it depends on how you define offer, right? So I don't know how that is, defined in their eyes. So we would need to understand that.
It's my understanding it will not. That's how I should answer that. But I think it's something that we should probably double check on our own.
Football do co-ops with, or is a co-op available for the couple kids with another school, or?
So there's timelines associated with
Right.
co-ops that we've
Yeah.
already missed for this
Okay.
upcoming school year. Again, we didn't foresee it. I think it's a discussion that should be part of the action plan that was discussed in the memo moving forward to see if that's something that we want to entertain or not. I will say that we have had co-ops in the past with school districts for other sports, and we ended that co-op because it was not fruitful. We did not get, I think we had 1 student from the other school district. And keep in mind, when you do a co-op, their enrollment is then factored into your enrollment. So it really is something that you'd have to look at carefully, in my opinion.
I guess I'm just curious if there's anything that we want to share, I mean, for families to understand at this time what preliminary thoughts exist around, you know, ensuring we have a varsity team next year and things like that. I mean, there's lots of variables, right? And kids are making choices each year. Numbers are certainly one set of data, but I know a lot changes for kids year to year and whether they choose to play or not. And, you know, there's only so much anybody can control, but
I think one enlightening factor for me, I mean, I wasn't really involved with these discussions until recently because Aaron Judd was involved more so. But it was interesting to me. I was thinking when you talk about 2 seniors in a program, you're thinking, at least I thought, I'll speak for myself, well, what in the world? How do you end up with 2 seniors? But that was a very small cohort to begin with. So on that back chart that you look at, yeah, I think they started with 5, Steve, and they ended with 2. So if you look at attrition, I mean, that's not too terrible of a rate, except you only started with 5. So I think when I talked with Steve, I had a better understanding that this was something that they knew could be a potential scenario when that small cohort were even freshmen.
Well, even the next year was only 7.
7 to 4 now.
Yes. And I will say, and this is not an excuse, but I will say these conversations about football numbers and also about participation numbers post-COVID for those cohorts that were really impacted by COVID are conversations that even us principals have within the Rock Valley Conference. I mean, that is a factor, and now our numbers are larger, which is good. But Steve and I did have discussions about what can we do to work together moving forward to ensure that we keep trending in a positive way.
I would ask that we have a conversation bigger than football, because while, you know, we have this immediate situation, other people have certainly raised to me, and I have younger kids in the district, so, right, we run the soccer program. I see the numbers coming up at younger ages as well, and I just think we need to have a bigger conversation around sports participation. Football is one sport, and I think we should certainly dig into that, but I think that we need to have a really more holistic conversation around our athletic programs and, I mean, just all of it, right? How are we working with our youth programs? What are we offering in the off season? What are our high school kids doing with the younger? There's just a lot to talk about, and I think we do some of it really well in pockets, and I think there's opportunities for us to improve. So I would hope that we don't just have a football conversation, that we have a athletics conversation. I think that could use some attention. So that would be my ask. Informal as it is, that would be my ask. Because I agree, school pride is centered in a lot of things, right? The band. It was super exciting to me to come to basketball this past year and see the pep band so many times, you know. And I reached out to Mr. Bertino and thanked him for just new energy, right? I mean, we've always had a pep band at things, but new energy is good.
Can I
Go
interrupt you?
ahead.
I just had a light
Yeah,
bulb
please,
moment.
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry for doing that. You bring up a very good point. I'm not sure how many people are aware, but Mrs. Fospanchek and Mr. Brutino worked on a band camp that was ran through summer school for marching band. So they practiced throughout the entire summer in order to perform at halftime. So that is a very integral piece that we will need to make sure we have performances for them to continue to perform in the fall, because they've worked very hard over the summer to prepare. So thank you for saying that.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I don't need to get on a soapbox around school pride, but I just feel like we could have a lot of energy around, you know, music and theater and sports, and kids find their pockets, right? And we have a small district with not a lot of, we need kids to do more than one thing, and we need kids to participate widely, and we need kids to be encouraged to do all the things that they want to do. And so I just think that a broader conversation around that could be very helpful and build up lots of programs. And the numbers, I mean, the class of 2027 looks better than, you know, any class that's on this sheet that goes back, I don't know, 8 years or something. So that's great. That is an encouraging data point for sure. And we want to build that up, not assume that it will be
I
fine.
think I'm hearing you, and I think it would be good for us to bring back as a future agenda item, maybe, Dr. Hibner. It's just a question, just an update in regards to sports, just to make sure everybody understands where we're at throughout all of our sports, because while I certainly hear what you're saying and that we want to look at youth numbers, I certainly don't want to take away from people that are putting a lot of time and effort
Sure.
into youth, and I know you're not saying that, but as I was at youth baseball last night and they won the division, and you know, you have other youth sports, you know, cheerleading and
Yep.
soccer, and you know, there's lots and lots of youth sports, even football, that are doing really great things. So I think, and even high school sports. So I think it would be good to kind of get a state of the state or an update of where we're at, and then moving forward from there. I think that's a great idea.
Okay, we need a motion to not have a varsity season. Is that what needs to happen? Would anyone like to make that motion?
I'll make the motion that the East Troy School District this year does not have a varsity football team.
I'll second it so we can have a discussion, but still the recommendation is to have a JV. Correct.
Yes.
And those two seniors can or cannot play. You have to find out the conference whether they can play.
Yes, we would recommend to the conference that they would be allowed to play on the JV team.
Yeah, I'm not an athletic expert, but it would seem foolish to have kids that are mostly freshmen playing, you know, a varsity season. That seems incredibly dangerous to me as a
Yeah.
novice in
Yeah.
football safety, but
Yeah.
I agree. It's, I was a football player in high school, and it's really sad to see this, because Friday Night Lights is one of the pillars of American small town history, you know. And it'll be sad to see, you know, the lights off on Friday night. But I want to speak to those that are still in the program. Please stick with it, because this is hopefully just a one-year thing. Just a personal note, when I was a freshman and sophomore, we had 22 people come in, and we didn't win a game for 2 years. And by the time we were seniors, we were conference champions. So if you stick with it, you can go from the bottom all the way to the top. So parents, encourage your kids. Kids, just learn from these experiences and make the best of them.
any other questions? Discussion? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Sounds like there's no opposed. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Steve.
Okay, next is an update pertaining athletic training services for the 23-24 school year.
You recall that, I think it was back in May, Aaron had provided an update in regards to that we were struggling for having athletic training services for this coming school year. So I provided a memo again from Aaron to all of you that I'll outline so people at home can understand it. On February 28th, 2023, I, meaning Aaron Judd, I received communication from Krista Lazarus at Aurora regarding scheduling a meeting pertaining to our athletic training services. On March 6, 2023, Erin, Christy, and her head leadership supervisor, Stephanie, met to go over training services for East Troy High School. During this meeting, I was informed, again, I meaning Erin, that Aurora was cutting our services because of the size of our district compared to the others they provide. Okay, thank you, Justin. I'm going to start again. So on February 28th, 2023, Aaron Judd received communication from Christy Lazarus at Aurora regarding scheduling a meeting pertaining to our athletic training services. On March 6th, 2023, Aaron, Christy, and her head leadership supervisor, Stephanie, met to go over training services for East Troy High School. During this meeting, Aaron was informed that Aurora was cutting our services because of the size of our district compared to others they provide services to in regards to their own personnel issues. They stated they did not have enough staffing. On May 8th, 2023, Aaron reached out to athletic directors at McGuanago, Burlington, Elkhorn, and Whitewater. Burlington is contracted with Aurora, so I went with McGuanago's training services, Pro Health. Their AD connected me, Aaron that is, with their AT coordinator. For 2 weeks, they emailed back and forth, but communication had stopped at that point. On May 2023, a memo was written to be presented to the school board with an update of the current athletic training services situation. On the 23rd of May 2023, Aaron reached out to Elkhorn's AD. Elkhorn passed along contact information for Mercy Athletic Training Services, but Pro Health again resumed communication at that time. A few weeks later, they informed Aaron that they are not able to provide athletic training services to East Troy because of the lack of personnel. So again, Aaron reached out to Elkhorn to get contact information from Mercy. On the 10th of July, 2023, Aaron contacted Daniel Caron, who is an athletic trainer supervisor for Mercy Health. After several emails back and forth, Danielle informed Aaron that she also is struggling with personnel issues and does not have enough staff to fulfill their current contracts. She offered the following advice. Use nata.org for resources on finding a full-time position within the district. So to do that would mean we'd be hiring a full-time athletic trainer in our district, or she offered that we should solicit independent contractors to cover games, secure an ambulance for high-risk events, which we already do, and CPR, AED, first aid certified for our coaches, which we already do. So his Aaron's suggestion at this point is to find comparable rates for independent contractors and attempt to secure an athletic trainer for athletic events with greater contact. This is purely an informational, but also a discussion item. There's no action that needs to be taken tonight, but we wanted to provide an update due to the fact we're struggling to find an athletic trainer. And nothing new, right? That personnel issues are, and staffing is a issue in many places of employment right now.
Anybody have questions?
So he's talking about just, in some sports, from what I gather, some sports that he's not recommending there be a trainer at, right? Or low impact sports, I'm not sure what
Yes,
we decided.
that'd be it, Steve. So if we're able to find an independent contractor for the amount that we might have to pay for it, which I would manage might be a little substantial, we will only have them at higher risk contact sports. I could not tell you exactly where that line is identified by Aaron with coaches, but I can kind of predict what I think would be those sports.
Okay, next, review current hiring protocols and discuss any new revisions.
Yeah, we'd like to actually reverse the two, so we'd love to go into executive session first to talk about an update to the athletic director position in regards to personnel. And then we'd like to come out of that and talk about reviewing our current hiring protocols and any revisions possibly needed.
That's fine. Okay, I'll make a motion to adjourn to executive session for discussion of personnel employment related to the athletic director position pursuant to Wisconsin statute 19.851C, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility, and Wisconsin statute 19.851F, considering financial, medical, social, or personal histories or disciplinary data of specific persons, preliminary consideration of specific personnel problems, or the investigation of charges against specific persons, except where B applies, which, if discussed in public, would be likely to have a substantial adverse effect upon the reputation of any person referred to in such histories or data, or involved in such problems or investigations.
I'll second it.
Roll call vote, Dale,
Yes.
Steve, Adam? And I vote yes. We're adjourned to exec calls and discuss any new revisions.
And on item C, it is a discussion action, if anything is needed, now that we're back on C. So I handed out a kind of a flow chart for our hiring processes, and if I could just, I'll take people through it due to the fact it's, the board through it due to the fact the public can't see it, but they could hear it. So when we have a position available, the first thing we do from a district level is determine whether or not, do we even need to post the position, meaning are we going to fill it? And if we are we gonna fill it with a transfer within, or are we going to fill it from posting it externally, which allows internal candidates to apply to? Once we post the position, then we obviously will determine which candidates will be interviewed by the necessary team that's looked at the candidates and all their information. And then the supervisors interview for the position. So they will create, I'm not gonna go through each one of these things specifically, but they will create their interview team. And we have different criteria for who should be probably on interview teams based upon the position. And from there then, after the interview teams, they will determine whether or not, do we need a second interview, a third interview, based upon what transpired in the first interview of the candidates. Oftentimes with those questions, we do a lot of situational questions too, so not just generic. We do them that are aligned specifically to the position that we're wanting a candidate for. After the interview team has elected to select a candidate, or candidates, to be quite honest, when we're in the interview process, we try to identify the first candidate and the second candidate due to various reasons, and still needing to do background checks, reference checks, and other things. So we always like to identify at least the top two candidates. With that, we conduct our supervisor reference checks. Then we do supervisor requests for background checks that we do over at the district office, which will look obviously at backgrounds and DPI licensures and those type of things. And then we will, once that is completed, we inform the primary lead person of the interview team, usually the direct supervisor, that they can work on, if all is okay with reference checks and background checks, they can work on working on a negotiated offer with the top candidate. Once the top candidate has hopefully come to an agreement on an offer and they've accepted the position, we then work through different things where we obviously will be taking the final recommendation to the board for ultimate approval or disapproval, non-approval. And during that same period in time, we'll be doing some things in the background to help this candidate get ready already, which is like obviously going through and setting up certain things that a new candidate would need in our district at the time from a stamp of different things, different platforms. We also do an orientation process in regards to personnel, benefits, all the things that we feel they need to know, along with some of the orientation of our district. With that, hopefully then what we're hoping is that our board meeting has come in a timely fashion and we bring forth our recommendation to the board and provide a synopsis of the entire process for the board to determine whether or not they're going to approve or not approve. One of the things that we've added, so people know, recently is when we offer a position to a candidate, we are requiring the candidate to be told that they are not to have any public notification of the position being offered to them until the board has had the synopsis brought to them and they've had an opportunity to approve it. So we do not want the candidate to be posting anything publicly until the board has had a chance of saying approved or not approved. Due to the fact, if they're not approved, they're not going to be an employee of the district. So we're asking them not to post anything until that time. We also will make sure that as a district, that we don't post any candidate on any type of our web pages or anything until the board has had the candidate brought to them and approved or not approved. Once approved, we will put them onto the web pages and obviously under our staff directory and everything else. So those are some of the changes we've made. On the back of the sheet is just a really quick synopsis of what we do from a checklist standpoint. The front was a flow chart, a basic flow chart. The back is the checklist. So the primary supervisor who's running the interview process probably has conducted the posting and everything else. This is what they need to do prior to any job offer. This is what they need to do during the hiring checklist. And so we're constantly making sure that not only our flow chart is being followed, but all the necessary internal personnel is aware of an individual being provided an offer and the key people that need to speak with that individual, probably while things are being worked out. From a support staff, professional staff, everything, we have the hiring checklist. And one of the things that we've added that we'd like to point out is on the conducting of reference checks, oftentimes in the summer, it's really hard to get a hold of individuals on doing references. People are busy and people are on vacation. And we recognize that, but one of the things that, so we will always send, not always, but oftentimes we send a reference check to people. They complete it and send it back. That still may continue, but one of the things that we've added is that we want to make sure that we're confirming that reference check always once it's been sent. And so we've added that just to make sure it's a reiteration of something that's important prior to any job offer. So those are just kind of the background of how we conduct interviewing, not all the specifics that go into it, and some of the checklists that goes with it. And if I can just say, one of the major things that gets complicated, especially in summer months, is the volume, right, of interviews and people that we have to. Even on lower years when we have 13 or 14, it's still a decent volume when you consider the entire flow chart and what has to transpire for somebody to get a job offer, right? And so one of the things that I just want to let the board know and explain to the board is, and that's where a little bit of the complication sometimes can come in, and that is when the whole interview process has been done by the necessary team and an offer has been accepted, but if we don't have a board meeting for weeks, it becomes difficult when an individual is waiting to know whether or not, do I have the job? And I want to let you know, we always tell the individual that you're being offered a position, here's the contract that we've negotiated on, but nothing is permanent until the board has determined whether or not they will accept or not accept your contract. But I just want the community to know that, because the challenge we have as administrators sometimes is we are in competition with other private and public sectors. So people are possibly getting another job offer at the same time. And they want to know, am I your candidate? Like, am I set? Or if they don't feel that way, they may elect to take another job while they're in this limbo of waiting, right? And so that's a difficult concept of just saying, well, you are not a candidate at all in our district until the board puts their seal of approval. The board seal of approval is the final approval, whether approved or not approved. But we still need to work things out with candidates oftentimes well prior to that, to ensure that they understand they're our candidate of choice at this time, so they stop looking for another job or accepting a different job offer. I hope I explained that somewhat clearly for people.
Yeah, I think so.
So is that something, when you have candidates like that, where you, like, say it's the week after a board meeting and you don't have one for 3 weeks? Right now, that they would have to then wait the 3 weeks before taking any action on their current job or any other jobs that we're in competition for. And then the other districts could then have a special board meeting or something to hire them and kind of, okay.
Yes, thank you, Adam. That's the conundrum and the challenge we run into. And so, I think, if sometimes we might have to have a special meeting, right, with a hire or hires before the school board meeting, but it's not as simple always just to say, well, always have special meetings. Well, there's a lot of different hires that go on throughout a school year and summer. And obviously, all of you have your own, professional careers too. So we just can't, and I cannot post, I can post a special meeting, but it has to be 48 hours unless it's an emergency meeting. That's 24 hours. Those would not fall under emergency meeting status. So that becomes the challenge, right? That most hires, unless they don't have a current position, have to resign from their position, and you can't be under 2 contracts at once. So they are not willing to resign until they've gotten approved in their new position, which, in all due respect, they're probably saying, meaning I want the board's approval in case it were not to be approved before I resign. And then they're gonna resign from their position, which will take maybe weeks, right? Depending upon when their board meeting is and maybe how many weeks they have to provide notice. So to turn over people, as we wait can really delay a process of getting somebody in to be hired.
Is there a way to do it? Is it required that there be a physical board meeting for us to approve it? Or is there a form that you could send to each board member that we could approve the hires independently without having a special meeting?
I can check with council on that, Steve. I've never had that brought up before, so I appreciate that. My intuition tells me that it has to be a discussion action item, which would mean then it has to be properly posted as an open meeting.
Okay.
And if you're providing, this is just my opinion, right? If you're providing a yes or no on a form to us, people would say you're voting on something which is outside of an open meetings. So I would think that it probably can't happen, but I can check into that.
Well, I just trying to streamline the process.
Oh, I
right?
appreciate it,
And if-
yes.
And if that's one way we could do it, whether we could,
Yep.
not necessarily a vote, but just an affirmative or something.
I can look into that by all means. Thanks, Steve.
Or even virtual?
Yeah.
For something like that. Another idea could be just having, maybe in the summer months, there would be intermittent planned hiring meetings, but then there you've set your schedule and then you could run into the same issues. So I don't know if that's gonna be a good idea, but, yeah.
I mean, it sounds like we hear some of the challenges around timing, and I think the board wants to ensure that we're not getting in the way of pulling in the candidates that we want to join us. So we would look to the administration to raise up timing concerns and make sure that we're made aware of a need to meet. If it turns out there's another alternative way to do it, we should talk about that in the future, but for now, we don't want to use timing as a reason why we lose out on someone.
Absolutely. I mean, that's more important we have is the personnel. So if there's something that we need to meet special, it only takes 3 of us, right, to get together. If some of the others can't make it, then 3 of us make it, and, right, we use our best judgment. So don't be
Appreciate
afraid to
it.
schedule
Yeah.
a special meeting.
Yep. Any other questions on this?
No.
Okay, that was the agenda. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you.